Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jan Czerwiński. And now we're going to take a look at the latest developments in the field of politics and energy. According to President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Donald Trump is growing impatient with European nations propping up Russia by purchasing gas and oil, including Hungary and Slovakia. Ruled by populist leaders who keep open channels with Moscow and shun European Ukraine aid efforts, these two countries had expected Trump's disruptive and unconventional foreign policy to work in their favor. Are their hopes likely to backfire in a major way? And what about other European buyers of Russian energy resources? Joining us here today is Grigorij Mesežnikov, President of the Institute for Public Affairs. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's begin by looking at the European continent in general. It is often said that it is about countries like Hungary and Slovakia, but is it really?
Yes, it's true concerning the setup of foreign policy of these two countries. They have a different position toward Russian-Ukrainian war, toward aggression of Russia against Ukraine in comparison with other EU member states. Of course, there are some differences also between these two countries. For example, Robert Fico, in his last meeting, it was conducted quite recently, 2 days ago, confirmed that Slovakia is supporting Ukrainian ambitions to be member of EU, while a Hungarian prime minister is against. But concerning the consideration of the energy deliverance, these two countries are, let's say, on the same platform, especially in supply of oil, because this oil was delivered to Slovakia and to Hungary by one pipeline. And moreover, the energy sector in this segment, the oil, is interconnected between Slovakia and Hungary, and the biggest producer of gasoline in Slovakia is in Hungarian hands. It's a Slovnaft factory in Bratislava.
So these countries essentially are dependent on the Russian energy resources. They are landlocked, so they cannot actually use seaports to diversify. But did they have opportunities to diversify before the war started or after the war started in order to improve their position and not be quite as dependent on deliveries from Russia?
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, there are different ways how to diversify either deliverance of gas or oil, and Slovakia was doing something before to diversify this deliverance, but the current government, led by Prime Minister Fico, despite the fact that it was notified by Ukraine, that Ukraine would stop deliverance of gas through its territory in advance. It was in 2023, 2024, but Slovak government, the current Slovak government, did quite little about this. The same is, I think, valid concerning the deliverance of oil. Slovakia and Hungary, but now I'm speaking about Slovakia, we are member of European Union, and European Union's the recent policy in the area of energy is to cut off from Russian sources, to disconnect from Russian energy system and to provide the alternative ways. So it's not true that we are fully dependent only on this one source. It's an obligation of the government to find these ways and to implement, and this government is criticized. This government is criticized by European partners, but also from inside the country, from experts, from political opposition, from civic activists. So really Slovak government, unfortunately, rather relies on deliverance from Russia, even in conditions of the war. And Ukraine is defending itself, and Ukraine realized that, any deliverance from Russia to Europe through its territory, it's harmful for the country, because it's one of the tools, the revenue from this deliverance, Russia is using for prolongation of war.
Which brings me to my next question, because as I have already suggested, it might not just be about Hungary and Slovakia. In fact, at the beginning of this year, February 2025, which is 3 years into the Russian invasion of Ukraine, a report was published by the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. And there are some really damning findings concerning all of Europe. According to that report, and also reports from the German Kiel Institute, basically the European Union has paid more for Russian resources than it has sent to Ukraine by way of aid. Now, one doesn't really need to have a PhD in economics to see that this is both shocking and rather disheartening, isn't it?
Yes, I think that it's a phenomenon of current European politics, and still, I mean, certain kind of mental dependence on Russian oil and gas, but also it's expression of lower understanding and lower realizing of the situation. Russia is a state which started war against Ukraine, and Russia before, many years before, Russia used the energy as a weapon in its subversive hybrid activities to the against the Western states. So it's still, low level of understanding of the risk situation in which Europe is now de facto staying, but also its indirect or maybe direct support of economic potential of Russia and its ability to prolong aggression against Ukraine and to prepare against possible conflicts with the West. So I think that really it's now the red line. After 3 years of Russian war against Ukraine, I think that really European political class, European business really should wake up.
And when Trump reportedly is getting angry at European countries still buying Russian oil, doesn't he have a point here?
I think that in this particular issue, of course, it has a point. Otherwise, we know that statements of President Trump not always, are very, very pointing, and his opinions about different issues are changing, and sometimes it's difficult to identify, what is his real position. But in this particular issue, of course, it has a point. It has a point. Because, as I said, if we are not following the common line of cutting off from Russian energy sources, we are directly or indirectly helping Russia to weaken us, to undermine our economic priorities, to undermine our unity. And concerning Slovakia, I think it's absolutely true that Slovak government really did very little in order, to be less dependent on Russian gas and oil and to be closer to European partners. And this is, Slovakia is a fully integrated country in Central Europe, European Union. We have Euro. Slovakia is a really integrated part of the West and the Euro, but unfortunately, current Slovak government is not conducting the policy which fits to our real position.
But again, when we're talking about Slovakia and Hungary, we're talking about mostly pipeline oil, right? And let's take a look at the data. We have 4.8 billion euros in pipeline oil. That is a lot. However, we also have 7.4 billion in LNG imports, and that goes into other countries, obviously, than Slovakia and Hungary because they are landlocked. We have 9.5 billion euros in pipeline gas, and also 5.1 billion in Russian refined oil. So wouldn't you say that perhaps countries which do have other opportunities, for example, which are not landlocked, not positioned very close to Russia, and are still taking in these Russian resources, are actually at least as much to blame for this phenomenon whereby Europe pays more to Russia for its resources than it sends to Ukraine?
Well, of course, it has sense what you said, but there are good examples of the countries which are also, landlocked, like Slovakia, and they are successfully diversifying their deliverance. Look to Czech Republic. Czech Republic, the Czech Republic is in more or less the same situation as Slovakia. But Czech Republic, thanks to political will of the ruling coalition today, but the governmental elite, Czech Republic is more pro-Western oriented country, and Czech Republic is doing what really it can for diversifying the deliverance of gas and oil and other kinds of energy sources for its economy. I think it's a good example for Slovakia and for Hungary, and of course those countries which are not landlocked, so countries with access to the sea. I think that they have to be even more energetic and this more enthusiastic. It's strategic. It's strategic issue. It's strategic issue because the previous decades showed that Russia really used the energy as a weapon, as a tool of hybrid operations against the West. Just, I would remind the situation before Russia started war against Ukraine. Russia provoked energy crisis in the whole Europe. I think it was really that time. It was absolutely clear that it's a part of integral part of the Russian foreign policy.
And now, Trump's foreign policy might be controversial, but even during his first term, he was opposing Nord Stream 2. And now, if Trump wants to once again pressure Europe into buying less Russian oil, less Russian gas, what tools could he use? Do you think that we might be facing, for example, more tariffs or less preferential trade deals for countries which are still buying Russian oil and gas? How do you think Trump is going to play this?
Well, we see some signals from American administration and from some changes in this policy. So United States can deliver more energy to Europe than Trump administration is imposing or preparing to impose the special tariffs to the countries which are buying oil and gas from Russia. Of course, it's a sensitive issue because United States is our partner. We are members of the same defense alliance, and of course, we belong to the same part of the world. We are democracies, and United States probably should take into consideration our concerns as far as a certain kind of dependence exists in our trade relations with Russia. But I think that strategic decisions should be done, and all possible technical assistance, some preferences for our cooperation with other countries, not with Russia, but from other regions of the world. There are countries which would gladly sell their gas and oil to EU member states, to Western countries.
Grigorij Mesežnikov was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you very much. All the best.
And I'm Jonáš Revínský. You're watching TVP World. Please do stay with us.